Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Secretary. Secretary Becerra, I have the requirements here needed to become a foster parent for dogs and cats through City Dogs and City Kitties Rescue in D.C. All the people who want to take a dog or cat into their home need to fill out an application, are interviewed by the rescue shelter, and their home is inspected. Mr. Becerra, does ORR inspect the homes of 100% of the prospective UC sponsors?
Congresswoman, thank you for the question.
Yes or no, please? 100%. Do you inspect the homes of the UC sponsors?
We do a thorough vetting process of any sponsor.
Do you, yes or no, 100% of the UC sponsors, sir? Do you inspect the homes of the unaccompanied children proposed sponsors?
We will often do home studies of
well, I guess that's a no.
Sponsors.
If you don't, which I assume you don't since you didn't answer yes or no, why is it that dogs and cats that are being foster parent in D.C. homes get a more thorough vetting and their homes are inspected and not the sponsors of unaccompanied children being put into homes?
Congresswoman, we do a thorough vetting process that includes...
Do you inspect all of the homes?
We do a thorough vetting process of the individual.
You're not answering. Okay, my next question is, in Arizona, an individual seeking to become a foster adoptive parent and all adults living in that same household must pass an FBI and local criminal background check and have a level 1 fingerprint clearance card issued by the Department of Public Safety. What percentage of sponsors have completed FBI background checks?
Every person who wishes to become a sponsor goes through background checks before they can participate in our...
What percentage have passed an FBI background check?
There are any number of background checks that they go through.
You're not answering again. What percentage of sponsors have undergone sexual offender registry checks?
We do sexual offender checks on anyone who wishes to be a sponsor.
100%.
That is one of the checks that we do.
100% on all the sponsors. That's my question.
Any person who wishes to be a sponsor has to go through these background checks.
So 100%. Is your testimony that 100% of the prospective sponsors get a background check on the FBI background check, the sexual offender registry check?
I've answered the question, but I'll say it once again.
You have not answered the question, sir.
So, Congresswoman, I have answered your question, but I will say it again. Every person who wishes to become a sponsor must go through a background check. It could include fingerprinting. It could include voluntary DNA testing. But it certainly includes things like a sexual offender check.
It includes it. But you have not answered if 100% of the sponsors are required to pass an FBI background check and a sexual abuse and child abuse neglect registry check.
My written testimony lists all the things we do to go through the vetting process. If you would like to follow up with further detail, more granular...
No, I'd like you to answer the question if 100% of the sponsors have to pass an FBI background check.
And as I've said, Congresswoman...
Just say yes or no. That would be simpler, wouldn't it?
I'm answering the question, and
no, you haven't.
answer is that we make sure that every person who wishes to apply to be a sponsor must go through a rigorous set of tests, including a background check.
Well, you haven't said if they have to do an FBI background check. You haven't said if 100% of them have to do a sexual abuse or child abuse and neglect registry check, as is required in Arizona for foster parents. I mean, so why is it that ORR has different standards for checking than Arizona does for vetting foster parents? Is it because they're unaccompanied children, because they're illegal immigrants? What is the reason?
And Congresswoman, that is an excellent question, because you're equating the program we have with a foster care program, and that's the crux of the problem. We don't have the same authorities that a foster care program has in your state. We cannot track these kids the way you might want to track them.
I didn't say about tracking the kids. I'm talking about vetting the sponsors.
It's the same process. In order to place someone in foster care,
you do have the authority.
That individual, that adult, has to go through a process. We don't have the same authorities.
Mr. Becerra, if you are vetting these sponsors so great, How come, according to the Florida statewide grand jury documents, one single family in Austin, Texas, had more than 100 children sent to it by ORR? Another Texas address had 44 children. A third had 25. In Pennsylvania, one caseworker told the Times he went to check on a child released to a man who had applied to sponsor 20 other minors. I do not think that you are doing an adequate job, and with that, I yield back.